What a lot of pastors do not realize is that oftentimes there will be witches and warlocks within the church, and you'll think that they're just Christians and prayer warriors, intercessors, but these people are actually witches and warlocks on assignment to destroy your church. And if they can't get to you, they'll come for your children, they'll come for your wife, they'll come for the worship team, they'll come for the intercessors, they'll come for your assistant. They will do everything that they can in their power to destroy you or tear down your church. There is this witch that begins to reveal how she would attack the church. Take a listen to this.
Part of what you were doing was causing miscarriages.
Yes, miscarriages.
And I mean, for some
Also
people,
going to church.
Yeah, destroying the church. Actually, my job was not outside the church. My job was to destroy the children of God.
Just listen to that right there. My job wasn't outside of the church. My job was inside of the church to destroy the children of God. Oh, this is why some of you guys, you're like, why is it all my secular friends or people that are doing evil, they're thriving and they're doing good and whatnot? The Bible says many of the afflictions of the righteous. That's what the Bible talks about. You understand me? So the devil has an obsession, witches and warlocks have an obsession to destroy the children of God because the people that are not Christian, they're already going to hell already. So their focal point is the children of God.
Because now we want to end this generation that will say God is holy and people must follow the devil. So we don't fight with people that are not inside the presence of God because already the devil knows these are mine.
yeah.
You know,
So your targets are these ones.
yes, we want to target these ones that have the truth in them, and now abasakwazi ukuthi bangabuyela emuva. So we don't need anyone actually to be with this God. So we have to make sure that we destroy. So amathaveni kuphi those were obvious things. So we were actually inside the church where they call God.
But wasn't it difficult for you then to get into that because of the spiritual covering that's there and because of God's presence in those spaces? How did you see? How did you find a loophole?
A loophole.
So that says with red flag nama warning.
Yes, I usually when I say it's a church without worshippers and intercessors, it's just a church.
It's a building.
Yes, I always say worshippers are like the paint in the walls. They make the church wow. And intercessors are actually the walls that has hold the church. Now, we look at the two groups before. Remember, we don't just go to church and attack. You spy that church for years. Because yes, we
You spy the church for years. You know what she means by that? They study the church. They study the intercessors, the worship leaders. They study the pastor. They try to look for a weak link. They try to look for an opportunity. This is what the Bible says that the enemy roams around the earth looking for whom he may devour. So the devil doesn't just attack, okay? He looks for who he can devour. This is why the Bible says in Ephesians chapter 4, verse 27, give no opportunity to the devil, because if you do, he's going to notice because he's looking.
will send devil worshippers that will go there abayothola ukuthi bayarola manifika ni worship abayenzani, but we are going to never cease ukuthi sibona that church to be destroyed. So now we look at the worshippers and intercessors, because those two groups are the people that are very close with the pastor. Intercessors, they pray, they went there and pray for the church. What are they planting? They are planting ukuthi the spirit of God has to move in the church
the
when the people of
space,
God
yes.
come. Now worshippers are standing or sharing the altar with the men or the women of God. Now we are going to attack them. It's either kuba ne-jealousy in the team, this one sings better than that one, abantu bayazithandanela, they're
So
dating,
most of the time when
bayenza.
they have
So she's saying right now to cause quarrels in the worship team. So how they're able to destroy the church, if they can't get to the pastor, they will go to the worship team and like cause pride and quarrels. Who sings better than this person? And then they get in their flesh. That's why the Bible says, um, be angry, but do not sin. Do not let the sun go down in your anger. And if there is no like legal rights to really penetrate the church, they will try to tempt you to open up legal rights. The enemy will try to tempt you into sin. right? They'll try to tempt you into sin. And then when you do that, you open the door for the enemy to mess with the worship. Because the Bible says, um, they praise me with their mouths, but their hearts are far away from me. So if there's quarrels in worship and, if there's sin in worship, the presence of God is not there. You understand me? And this is how witches and warlocks are able to truly maneuver and work through the church.
If it is not even them, the worshippers, is the
Is
enemy.
the
But
enemy.
the enemy, that's a loophole.
Yes.
Like ngena khona.
Yes.
Okay.
And once we find one worshiper or one intercessor abangekho in right standing with God, like being prayerful, uthola ukuthi umuntu uphila kayi-2. Makasontweni I'm
double
holy.
life, yeah.
Yes, when I'm home I'm
I live a
living.
different life.
Yes, you're actually a dangerous person to be part of the leadership because
Listen to this.
I live a
living.
different life.
Yes, you're actually a dangerous person to be part of the leadership because now, for us to get the pastor, remember we
Umnyangwe.
can't. Yes, we can't face the pastor. We need you who is standing before him, or rather, at the back of the pastor to destroy the church.
That's deep right there. She just said, if you're living a double life and you're living in sin, it's dangerous for you to be in leadership. And what the enemy will do, he'll use the worship leader that's fornicating, the worship leader that's in sin, the worship leader that's doing crazy stuff. The enemy will use that person that's in sin to destroy the church, to destroy the whole worship team. Now that leader can also get initiated into the occult. And then you got a whole occultist, you have a whole witch or warlock in the worship team. I'm telling you, there's many churches that fall because of the compromise within leadership, because the enemy has entered in. My uncle, he's a pastor in Texas, right? He used to be into witchcraft, all that stuff, selling the soul to the devil, gain power to fortune tell, drink all these bottles of perfume to invoke a genie spirit, all that stuff. I think you guys know that testimony of my uncle, but his own assistant pastor poisoned him. My uncle's own assistant pastor poisoned my dad, poisoned my uncle. My uncle's own assistant pastor poisoned him. My uncle's own assistant pastor poisoned him, and my uncle was in the hospital. This stuff is real. And my uncle talks about it till today. He was poisoned by his own assistant. The enemy will set up people within your church to destroy you. They will be in the pews, they'll be in the congregation. It can be your assistant pastor, it can be the intercessor, it can be the worship leader. This is why yourself, you must be prayerful and living in right standing with God. Because if you think witches and warlocks are outside of the church, they're inside of the church, and some of them are your brothers, they're your sister. My God.
That's why you find many churches are being closed, not because pastors are not powerful. There is no pastor that is called uNkulunkulu engamnikezanga amandla.
Come on now.
Do you understand? But now we are using people around them. If we can't get him or her with a family, we're going to use people or children spiritually to get actually that pastor.
Sure. And then in terms of miscarriages, how does that work?
And this is why pastors have to remain in holiness. And this all reminds me of like Samson. Imagine Samson like being a man of God. He was a man of God. Obviously, he wasn't a pastor, but he was a man of God. And they used Delilah to get into Samson, to destroy Samson. Those of you, men and women of God, even if you're not a preacher or pastor, the devil is coming after you to destroy your finances, destroy your marriage, to destroy your children, to destroy anything in your life. Do not open the door. And if you don't open the door, the enemy will try different things, schemes and strategies. And this is why the Bible says, do not be ignorant of the devil's devices in the book of Corinthians. We are not ignorant of the devil's schemes. You must not be ignorant. And one thing about me is that I don't just be going to church and eating people's food, man. I've seen too many initiations, too much people getting bewitched in church. You know how after they'll have after church they will have their meet and greet, or everyone's in the hall, having their coffee and their whatever. There are some people who, in I grew up in African church, right? And sometimes people will bring drinks and they'll bring food and whatnot, and you don't know these people. And you just go and eat it. You're not prayerful. You're not living right before God. You go and eat it and you get initiated into the occult, witchcraft, just like that. Initiated. And that is a huge way many children are initiated into the occult. And then they'll begin to use those children. They'll begin to use those people against the pastor, against the ministry. So you're once someone there that loved the Lord, hey, but you had an open door and you ate the food. You became you became initiated into the occult. Then you go to sleep at night, you astral project without your willing, without your wanting. And then now you're being used as a principality to come against the pastor, to come against the church. And they see you physically in the church, but you're actually on assignment, doing things, causing people to sleep, doing all this crazy stuff. I remember my dad had a crusade in Montreal, and my dad's just praying and praying and praying and praying and praying. And then this one lady jumps from the back of the room, and she has like, she's jumping like this. It's like, well, she was in the air for a minute. I could tell you she was like levitating, no lie. And she was like this in the air, coming to hit my dad. And then she's on the floor, manifesting, speaking in French. She's saying, Je suis Satan, saying, I am Satan. Obviously, it's not Satan. It is it's just a demon spirit taking on the personification of Satan. So it's saying all this stuff. I was sitting beside like two people away from this person. I was maybe 5 or 6, not even 5 or 6. I was probably like 8, 9, 10. I'm sitting 2, seats away from this woman, and her hair is down to her face, and she has her head down. And then as my dad is praying, and then prayers going on, this woman jumps, gets up like this, and just runs full speed and jumps at my dad, bruh. And they had to take us out because I was still really young back then. They had to take the kids out. And that woman began to say how she was on a mission to destroy my dad. That's why deliverance is not a joke. You got to live right before God. And my dad has experienced a lot of attacks with his ministry, really trying to break out. And also, the devil would use people in my dad's own ministry against him, people on the worship team, people on the prayer team, people on the finance team, creating gossip and rumors, attacking my dad's character, all of these things to bring him down. And there was a woman that came out and said that how there was something inside of her that hated my father. She did not like my father, and she was on the worship team. And my dad ended up bringing her through deliverance, manifesting crazy, jumping all over the place. This stuff is real. This is why I don't be eating from people. I be chilling. If I do, I'm gonna pray. I don't have fear, but I have wisdom. My grandfather was also my grandpa was also poisoned. My late grandfather was also poisoned. My uncle was poisoned. There's people that try to poison my dad. Like, this is why I'm okay with like being to myself and having a small few people that I'm cool with and I personally know. I'm cool with that. I don't need a company of just a bunch of people. I can have a company of a few people for myself. Because the world we live in is so wicked and so demonic. It is unbelievable. Many churches close because of witchcraft. There's an attack against the finances. And the enemy will always try to attack the walls of the church, intercessors, worship leaders. He'll try to attack all that. And then boom, everything falls. He'll try to attack the support system because the pastor's prayerful. The worship leader and intercessors, be prayerful. Be prayerful. This stuff is very, very, very real. Very real. Very real. It's very real.